Hello everyone, this is Suresh. Welcome to the webinar on SaaS overview. So first of all, thank you for everyone for joining these sessions, and I hope you are able to hear me. Uh, First of all, I would like to take an opportunity to introduce what is Stridely and what we do. So in Stridely, we are almost more than 12 years of experience. We do have over serving the customer. We have a global presence around the world in 3 countries, and we are ISO 9001 and 20001 certified company. We do have a certification in SAP Security Viewer uh, and Automation Anywhere, which is leading RPA technology provider nowadays. Client wise, we have more than 18 plus customers and more than 12,500 man month experience we do have, and uh, more than 200 plus skilled employee we have. Before we start, let me introduce our house rules. So this presentation will take almost 30 to 35 minutes and followed by a question and answer sessions. I request all the participants to mute your mic, and this is being recorded, so we'll get a link once the session is over. Okay, let me go to the next. So let me introduce myself. I'm Suresh Suthar, working as a senior technical manager in Stridely Solutions, and I have more than 12 year of experience in Microsoft technology, where I have worked on web as well as Windows applications in past. And in Stridely, I am the one of the core member in .NET divisions. Yeah, currently I worked in SaaS platform along with the integrations part. Introducing Ankur. Ankur.
Hi everyone, I'm Ramanuj, working as a technical lead in Stridely Solution. I'm having 10 years of experience in Microsoft technology, including SaaS architecture and all of the platforms of Microsoft.
Awesome, Ankur. So let us briefly let me brief you about what we are going to cover in this session, because this is going to be very interesting. So today we'll cover what is SaaS, what do we mean by multi-tenancy, why nowadays business is moving towards SaaS platform, what is the need, what is the tangible and intangible benefits, and all those theory. We'll also talk about when you design your SaaS applications, what are the core thing or the building block we called it you need to consider. Along with it, you need to decide the parameter before choosing your cloud provider, and the database model and application architecture, what you should go, whether it's a monolithic or the other microservice based architecture, right? And SaaS is like an ocean, so we cannot cover all the components. So what we did, we choose API management and identity management as a two critical component in a very detailed manner, along with a demo architecture where we'll show the flow and how the data is being driven between the two the different layers. And the last part is DevOps, because it's an integral part of SaaS, so we'll cover DevOps also. All right. So SaaS, I mean, the by default, the definition is, SaaS. If I called it in a simple word, it's a third-party applications available over the internet, with no physical connections, and it can be accessed from any device, right? So if I can give you an example of a SaaS, so Microsoft Azure, those are the SaaS provider, right? But application-wise, Google Docs, that's a SaaS applications. Salesforce, Oracle, those are the SaaS applications. They do. Uh, yeah, and if I talk about multi-tenancy, so multi-tenancy is nothing but your single instance of your code will cater multiple customers, right? Which includes the database and code. Now, multi-tenancy have a single tenant and multi-tenant. So in single tenant, where you have a separate code and separate database for all the tenants, right? Whereas in multi-tenancy, you have a single code but shared database among the tenants. That is multi-tenancy. But nowadays, customers are prefer to go based on the hybrid tenancy. That is, you have a shared code or single code, and your isolate. I mean, the database would be separate, right? So in nutshell, if I summarize, SaaS is nothing but a fully cloud application driven by customer subscriptions and can be accessed from anywhere. When I say anywhere, it can be from mobile, web, or any portable devices. All right. So now why business are moving towards us? What are the core benefits they see? So the first benefit which we see is a flexibility. So when I say flexibility, let's consider a scenario, flexibility and scalability. Uh, if your business, your website, you have created a website which is getting huge demand from the outside, right? And you are getting lot of tenant onboarding. In such scenario, what will happen? You are seeing a need to increase your server capability or server capacity increase you want to do, right? So it is easy and flexible by the cloud provider. By just in one click, you can increase the hardware need. For example, the CPU you needed. The more CPU you needed, the more core you needed, you can do by simply clicking on it. So it has a scalability options. Flexibility, let's say your business is season based. For example, 3 months you see high traffic, but after 3 months, I know the demand will automatically decrease. So you can release those resources, and it has a pay as you go model also nowadays. So business folks are seeing a lot of advantage with this. The second core benefit is application cost minimizing. Yeah, definitely, because you don't need to now buy any hardware, the costly hardware, software, or storage, right? So it eventually you don't need to have any maintenance cost. No need to worry about maintenance of your server, And if we see a survey towards the market, 30% of your cost, IT cost, will reduce. That is because in traditional applications, everything would be managed by customer, and now in SaaS world, everything will be managed by vendor, or we call it as a cloud provider. So that is the main advantage of business. Also, the third main advantage is reduce administrative cost, because now we don't need to engage more manpower in doing reset password or doing a database backup or recovery. Right? It is automatically handled by cloud provider. In case any new software is coming and we need to do an upgrade, or for example, SQL Server 21 is coming. So we are not supposed to do any installations. It will be taken care by. So there is a lot of advantage we see. Guaranteed access and reliability. Most cloud provider challenge, I mean, 99.9 reliability. So that means your website will be up and running for 365 days. I mean, who want their business to be down because of the server outage? So that's why they have a SLA also, to have certain parameters on reliability. Compliance need. Mostly your tenant would reside in different geographical locations, right? So it may need, based on the country wise, they have a compliance need. For example, in UK based, if I give you an example, in UK we have a need for GDPR regulation, that is global data protection regulations they have. So in that case, the tenant provider has a way how in UK region you can implement that compliances. They provide way to implement those things. And in India, let's say we have ISO 9001 right requirement for audit. You can easily do through Microsoft Azure. They do the ISO 9001 security audits. So compliance part is also handled by automatically by the uh, tenant cloud providers. Security. So when you design your applications by your own, you are the only one or few folks who are doing the testing in terms of accessing outside IP validations, everything. But when it is being gone through a multiple eyes, the security part would be definitely more than the traditional applications. Now, those were the very tangible benefit we have seen. Now, there are intangible which we cannot see directly, but eventually helps business to move, towards their meeting their goals. The first one is streamlining their business process and integrating the other system. How they streamline. So in traditional or in legacy applications, business always see whatever they are covering in their organizations. They never see the processes, which is standardized. So when we build any SaaS specific applications, the goal would be, to see what are the market level processes or what are the best practices the similar organizations which implement or which uses. So that's why it makes your business process streamline also and integrated, because now your legacy application is in cloud. So there are high chances that you want to integrate with a financial system or maybe a CRM system or maybe let's say HR system, right? So it is easy now to make integrations between a lot of applications or a lot of legacy applications, which in turns you have centralized database now, right? So all transactions are being log centralized. So you have more uh, you can plug in any Tableau or Power BI tools, which will you can increase your reporting capability based on business need. Business can see a lot of visibility compared to earlier, separate out a DB. Uh, Business folks can access your SaaS applications from anywhere. So even though it is from your portable device like mobile, they can see the same look and feel based on the responsive design. Right, it can be done through tablet also. When the field level service folks are going, they can also use your applications, and that eventually makes more productive applications than your earlier, because nobody will go to your web application and do login, and it is easy to do from the portable devices. If I sum it up, all the three core intangible benefit, which eventually, I mean, tangible and intangible benefit, which eventually sum up to a customer's better customer service and satisfactions. The customer would be definitely happy when they see such a drastic benefits in their business. Okay, so we talked about why we need a SaaS, and why the business are moving towards SaaS. Now, when we are designing, few things we need to consider as an operationally being a developer application wise also and DevOps wise also. So let's talk about operational wise what we need to consider. So we need to discuss with business, right, what model they want to go in SaaS, what billing and metering they want. For example, if business want to implement as per request or per transaction basis, you define that there is a way in Azure to do it. If business want to go by per module access, we can do it, but we need to make sure that is being defined and discussed prior to your implementations. Governance process, again, it's very important for business stakeholder, where they have a source systems. For example, the most of the HR system as employee, so employee data would be managed in HR systems. Now there are need in your SaaS applications where you need your employee data and maybe some modifications, right? So make sure you are designed in such a way your endpoint or the API which you are defining, it should have an integrations between the systems, right? And if any governance or any modifications of data required, that is, so that should be handled prior to the implementations. Logging and monitoring, so make sure there are many logging way in SaaS, especially in Azure, but most of the SaaS provider or cloud provider has a logging mechanism. In Azure we have like application insights and LMS. Also you need to discuss with business what are their monitoring way. I mean, there are critical businesses where the each and every request or being handled or being monitored should be monitored. So create those dashboards on your cloud provider portals, which will benefit to the business. Compliance, as I just told, like based on your regions or country, you need a requirement for compliances. Tenant administrations. So define a way where you can enable or disable tenant at any point of time. You can upgrade their subscription. So subscription should be handled in tenant administrations. Number of applications which you want to consider, in particular subscription, that also you can define in tenant administration. And security, I mean, security, there are multiple things, but I'll cover during the API management session how security is being handled. Identity, the first and foremost thing is identity. How do you want your SaaS applications, to be authenticated? For example, if your tenant has a Azure AD, there is a way you can do authentications in Azure with the Azure AD authentication. For example, your client has a Google Suite or they want to do a Google account authentication, right? So Google Suite authentication we can do through Azure B2C, right? Uh, Tenancy. So define whether your client want to go with a single tenancy or multi-tenancy. I mean, they want a shared database or shared code. So define that, understand their business need, how they want to go, or what is their main goal. Data partitioning. I mean, it's again on the business whether they want their data to be isolated from other tenants or they want to go with this shared database. It may possible their data usage is very minimal, right? So they will go with shared data source. But if they have a very huge data and sometimes performance optimizations needed, right? So they will go with the isolation part. So I'll cover in database modeling, uh, data during the database modeling. Onboarding is, you need to define a way how your tenant will do a sign up. For example, are you going to send an email to them for an invite, or they will have a sign up button and again they do the verifications, right? Also make sure the tenant admin who is, first time doing registrations, all rights and the roles has been properly defined before you start your applications, right? So there are predefined roles and role-based access available in Azure, but you need to define or design when you do development of your SaaS product. DevOps, again, it's a critical part where you want your code to be automatically deployed, also your database, right? So version controlling or repository would be an one thing, but there are things where your code will go through, pipelines of because of the continuous integration and continuous deployment. You can create a pipelines, right? And your code and your database can be deployed. Now, multiple database can be deployed automatically through Deckpack projects, so that can be handled in DevOps. So if we cover all those part, your design mostly will cover all the aspects of SaaS building. Now, how should I choose my SaaS provider, right? So let's say when I select my SaaS provider, the one thing I need to cover is cloud compatibility. So it should have a cloud to cloud interactions. Uh, Also, your cloud provider should support architecture of your applications, whether it's a monolithic or microservice based architecture. So that should be supported by your cloud provider. Performance, you need to measure your application performance with your legacy applications, whether even though after you deployed, maybe you see a problem or, because of the cloud provider, we need to measure that also before selecting that. Integrations, you need to understand your business IT landscape, what software they have, whether all are in Microsoft base. For example, they have Office, MS CRM, right? So it's better to go with Microsoft Azure. If they have everything on AWS integrations, right, go with AWS. So AWS. So your integrations will be, very easy, right? Fifth part is data migration. So most of the clients moving their legacy applications to the SaaS environment, right? And then when they start the data migrations, they might not see a tool to migrate their data. So make sure the data migration tools are available based on your database, whether it's Oracle, SQL, or any other DB. Compliance, and we already discussed the compliance need should be handled by your cloud provider. And community supports, most of the time we go with uh, open source or any other cloud provider, but when we are stuck, sometimes we don't find supports from the internet or from the community. So make sure that is being have a proper supports from your cloud provider. Now let's decide what database or how you should decide your database, right? So there are three major databases: silo-based method or bridge method or pull method. So in silo, we have a separate databases for each tenant, and in bridge, we have a single database, but the schema for that will be based on the tenant-wise schema. And in pool, we have a single data source, single schema, but each tenant ID would be defined at the record level, or the column-based tenant ID will define. Majorly, SaaS implementer, we will use silo or pool. So we'll compare both of these and which one is better based on the usage. So it's again depends. So if you have a need or requirement of certain compliance to be implemented for certain tenant, better to go with silo, because it may possible one tenant have a certain compliance, other will not have. So it's very difficult to manage when you have a shared. If your tenant want separate database, better to go with silo. And in silo, the advantage is as it is alone, single share, I mean single database, so no tenant would be impacted. Or in pool, for example, if your database goes down, the impact would be on all tenants, not on one. So better to go with silo in case you have a this requirement, this type of requirement. Data management would be obviously complex because you have a multiple databases in silo base. So database backup, recovery, and other steps you need to take care. In pool base, obviously the main advantage is cost because you have one database, so no need to pay extra on your cloud provider for the different databases. Compliance would be always challenge. As I told, compliance is easy in silo, which is very difficult in pool base. And performance issue we will see definitely in pool, because your one tenant may have a, let's say, in millions record, and another tenant is having in thousands record, right? So because of those million transactions, the 1000 transaction tenant would be always impacted, right? So let's decide before this. You understand what is your tenant need, and based on that you decide it. Quickly going on API management. So API, again, it's just a middleware between your database and your UI, and it retrieves data or results from your database and send it to the needed. But no SaaS implementer will throw or expose their API to the end user, because it may possible that they will misuse it. So the better way is all your APIs or the microservices can be tied back to an API management, which in turns give you a one single URL, and which can be accessible throughout your applications as a identical, right? So API management role is as a gatekeeper, which tracks all your request coming, whether it's if somebody try to access wrong way, or any there is a risk for vulnerability, right? So it can be handled by API management. Now API management has a rich set of policies. So if I talk about few policies, so restrictions by caller IP, that can be done, right? Bandwidth usage. Suppose you want certain tenants to be not use this bandwidth, or that can be done through policies. Authentications policies, they have caching policies. It is easy to implement in API management. So API management act as a load balancer also when you create an API gateway. The second part is security. So in security, when I told you can create your VNet or virtual network, you can do IP whitelisting also, and by IP you can restrict your request. Analytics and logging. So API management is nowadays integrated with application insights. So during your development, if you start logging into application insights, it can be used, creating an analytics reports and creating a dashboard. So better to go with API management rather than exposing your core APIs. Now, let me quickly brief you on the demo architecture. So in demo architecture, what I'm showing here is you have a UI where your admin will do a login, your tenant will do a login, and then you have your identity provider, whether you want to do authentication through Azure AD or your social accounting like Google, LinkedIn, you want to do it. So let's say if we authenticate it, it will go to a business app where your authorizations will come first. Your authorizations will find out which tenant are you want to log in, right? So your tenant provider will give you that tenant identification through the claim details like tenant ID and other claim details. Once that is being authenticated, it will go to the API management where your microservices will be accessed, and it will go to the business engine and data manager to the database. Again, if you see the shared API, which is talking to external system, for example your ERP system or your CRM system, you will expose your shared API endpoints, and your external system will implement your API and start sharing data, master data, right? So that will cover the governance part or the core master data management part in your architecture. Now, what challenges we have encountered, throughout this journey? So the first foremost challenge is, where do we put the roles, right? So for example, should we put our role at the tenant level, or should we put the role at the master level, tenant catalog master? And based on our need, we moved our roles at the tenant level, but it can be done at the master level also. But the disadvantage is you cannot change the role, tenant wise, if you have a master roles in the master data. Let's say your requirement is to manage images also, right, or document. Make sure if you are using blob storage, the tenant, one tenant should not access data of others. So it can be done through, in blob storage they have a shared access signature, that is SAS concept, we called it, and create a token based on SAS, and it can be handled. So we handled it, the securing document. Third is hybrid infrastructure, because it may possible one of your legacy application will go to cloud and the other will stay and at the same on-premise server, right? So how you will communicate those legacy applications to your cloud, that you need to define that, and we handle through shared API and other ways. Industry specific tools, most of the business have their core applications or core logic which is in their legacy application. They always try to play with it, but never, understand what is, needed, or what are the industry specific rules. So when you go with it, sometimes it is very challenging to change, core business logic. So it requires discussions and you know boarding exercise also. Technology selections, that is mean, again, so which one we should go, Azure or AWS, right? So understand your IT landscape. There are many advantages, AWS, Azure, but one is where, you can track your requirement to your code level in Azure very seamlessly compared to AWS. And if you have your IT landscape on Microsoft side, go with Azure, right? So we demoed many times in our client, like what are the better things in Azure, and that's how we overcome this. Handing over to Ankur.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. So identity management, like why we need to use identity management, right? So identity management, like in generic term, used to describe an organization internal processes that focus on managing user accounts and corporate network resources, like including access rights for organization, users, applications, systems, anything. Like in enterprise context, identity management aims to improve security and productivity while reducing cost and redundant tasks. Identity management generally used for authentication and user access right on the network are key element of identity access management. Identity management having so many key features. Identity management used for the password management, for single sign-on, for role-based access control, and also it used for the improved user productivity. And also we can use provide secure remote access to on-premise web applications also. So those are the identity server for. So it's nothing but a framework to build your own authentication mechanism. So identity server, using identity server for, we can use the OpenID Connect, OAuth 2.0, SAML. So any type of technical platform we can implement using identity server for. So identity server for is nothing but a framework to build your own authentication mechanism. So it enables right individual to access the right resources on right time. So this is a basically a basic diagram of identity server for, like how it's worked. So user can logged in through mobile app, like web app or any platform. So for example, user going to the web app, right? And if user is not authenticated, then web identity server for identified that user is authenticate or not. If user is not authenticate, then identity server is having one common login page where we have a multiple options like a Microsoft, a G Suite, or any external provider we can configure there. If user click, for example, user click on the Microsoft login, then it will identity server for redirect it to the Microsoft domain. And Microsoft having its own mechanism where it's authenticate user to the Azure Active Directory using app registration and also using the Microsoft Graph API. It will return a particular JWT token, and that token we can use on the authorization where we have all the information about user, like user profile, claims, everything we have in the token. So if after that, if web app is calling to the API, then that token we can validate for the authorization. So basically, identity server is used for the single sign-on, where we can make a centralized login for all the applications. If we have multiple applications, then we can make it a centralized login for everything, like for all the platforms. And the next is the DevOps, right? So why DevOps? The like it's a essential part of the SaaS architecture. The goal of DevOps is to change and improve the relationship by advocating better communication and collaboration between these two business units, development and IT operations. Like it's using DevOps, we can deliver new code quickly and reliably. We can give a user a killer experience. So we can also automate all the things, testing and all. So the advantage of DevOps is like evaluate your architecture and process. So to realize the dream of continuous integration and delivery, make sure your app workflow are built to align with DevOps. Like map out and again map out deployment. So in order to improve deployment speed and make continuous delivery reality, map out every step of your deployment process from start to finish. Also, we can do automated deployment of the database of the web app services, APIs. So we can make a automated deployment once we have mapped out our standardized deployment process. Also, we can do automated testing using multiple tools like XUnit, NUnit. We can integrate any tool on the DevOps side, and we can do the unit testing for that. And also we can set a alerting system for the development team, like monitor every step of deployment with automated alerts to notify your team when something goes wrong. So like in real time they can get alerts. So they can think Tighten feedback loops, like as you team gets used to receiving and addressing alerts, Tighten feedback loops to increase your issue resolution velocity. So that's what a DevOps, right? And like DevOps having two major things, CI and CD. It's a backbone of DevOps. So CI is nothing but a build pipeline where we can do build of particular repositories. Like developer will push their implementation into the repository, and DevOps CI pipeline is doing a build for that, doing automation, automated testing on that. And like using the CI pipeline, we can eliminate the defect, boost our development speed, and automated builds, test execution. So basically, it's accelerating our development speed. And CD is nothing but it's a release pipelines. So once the CI pipeline is ready with all the builds, uh, CD pipeline is doing a release to the production environment, to the QA environment, and we can have multiple environments in our business scenario. So we can set automated build deployment, we can set a manual build deployment, whatever we want, we can configure on the CD pipeline. So CD pipeline is nothing but the bunch of development build we can do releases on the particular environment. So this is just example of the release pipeline, how it's look like. So here we have two environment, dev stage and QA environment. So QA is required continuous deployment. Is actually not required a continuous deployment, right? As few bunch of dev build will release to the QA, so we can do a automated build to the QA. Yeah. So yeah, I'm handing over to the Suresh. That's all.
Thank you, Ankur. So far we covered a lot of things, but let me conclude it by a summary. So when we are designing an application, the first part is the security, where you will define your identity provider, your authentications and authorization mechanism, your single sign-on need, right? So that can be handled through security part. The second part is tenant catalog, where tenant-wise configurations, tenant theme, tenant billing needs, customizations will be handled in a tenant catalog model. Subscriptions, where you will define your applications, the feature you want to include in your applications, the provisioning or role management, the licensing mechanisms, that would be in subscription part, and that will go to the API management. So in API, you have API services, your microservices, your API management, your load balancing, Azure, I mean the traffic manager you need, that would be in the API. Notifications, most of the business need is on the business template. So define business template, certain business template, define a way of email, whether you want to integrate a SendGrid or you want to integrate Twilio for SMS. So those things you should cover in your SaaS design as a notifications. Monitoring, as I told, application inside can be integrated in your code, but the dashboard and the way you want to display or want to see the exceptions and errors, you should have a proper way in your monitoring part. Business layer, where microservices, external services for sharing, getting the data from shared system, databases, your report, your analytics, your audit logs. This would be in your core business layer. Business processes, this is not being handled so far in none of your soft design, but nowadays we are seeing rapid needs due to the RPA involvement. So for example, if I want to integrate my UI path flow in my business, so it can be easily done in Azure by integrating UI path with the workflow mechanism. You might need to design your custom applications business rule in your module, so that can be done also in business processes. And last part is your DevOps or auto deployment, where your code and DB can be deployed through let's say DACPAC project or CDCI pipelines, right? So in nutshell, if you include all this nine modules or 9 factors, your SaaS design would be flexible, scalable and reliable. Thank you so much hearing. Let us go on the question and answer sessions. Yeah. I hope I have explained very detailed way. Not seeing any questions. All right. So we have one questions from. So this question is, in which scenario we should use SaaS and PaaS architecture? Correct. So SaaS applications or SaaS architecture, I mean SaaS and PaaS are the core component of cloud computing, right? So they both cannot PaaS can go alone, but SaaS needs an platform, right? So SaaS will always an integral part of platform as a service and infrastructure as a service. So when you have your need where you just want to deploy your applications or host your applications on a cloud, right? It eventually you are using SaaS, but internally it uses platform as a service. Correct. For example, if you want to use data storage, or you want to, for example, you want to use blob storage, you want a way to define all the tenants should upload their images on the cloud, right? So in that case, you will use the Azure blob storage service, right? That is the PaaS. Correct. Ankur, if you want to add something on this. Okay. All right. So I think still, if you have questions, we are open on our email. So you can contact us through our emails, and we'll provide you this recorded sessions link through emails. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time.